Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about thrashing. So what is thrashing? Well, thrashing is a situation when system is spending most of the time in servicing the page faults rather than executing the actual process. So we have learned in the previous videos that when we have main memory and secondary memory and there's a process that is requesting a page that does not exist in the main memory, then page fault occurs, right? And then because it needs that page doesn't exist in the main memory, there's a swap out and swap in happens. For instance, if it requires page 5, then page 4 is going to be swapped, or if it requires, let's say, page 5, so for instance page 1 is going to be swapped, it goes to the secondary memory and the page 5 comes into the main memory. Okay, so when does the thrashing happens? So if a process is allocated too few frames, then there will be too frequent page faults, and as a result, no useful work will be done by the CPU and CPU utilization will fall drastically. And this drastic fall of the CPU utilization is called thrashing. So let me show you. So let's say in this diagram, we have the CPU utilization, which goes up in this direction. And then we have a degree of programming. So degree of programming means the number of processes at a particular time. So if we are saying increase the degree of programming means increase the number of processes, just a concept, okay? So the CPU should have as many processes as possible so that the degree of programming is high and our CPU is utilized fully and it's not sitting idle, right? So that is why from here, if you look at the graph, this is a utilization, this is the degree of programming, which means when the degree of programming increases, number of processes increases in the CPU, then the CPU utilization increases. So like this, it goes up like, but at this point, there will be a point that will come, and at that stage, probably there won't be enough frames available. So the swapping would happen. And as soon as the swapping happens, CPU will become busy in getting those pages rather than doing the actual task. And from this point onwards, the CPU utilization will fall down, is because the CPU is busy for doing the swapping of the pages rather than doing the actual task. Okay, so at this point, operating system would think that it needs to increase the degree of programming. So it will start increasing the number of processes. That means that the long-term scheduler would try to load more processes into the main memory to improve the CPU utilization. But the problem is that this will result in further decrease in the CPU utilization, because those additional processes that will be added over here, would trigger another chain of reaction for higher page faults. Okay, because when those pages are not available, if you keep on increasing the processes, but you don't have enough frames available, and if those pages are not available in the main memory, more page faults would occur, which means CPU will get busy in getting those pages from the secondary memory into the main memory, and CPU utilization will continue to fall. So system will continue to increase the degree of programming, but because of those pages not being present in the main memory, thrashing would occur. That means page fault will continue to occur, and system is not actually doing any useful work, but is basically busy doing the page swapping. Okay, so that is the concept of thrashing. All right, so in the next video, we will discuss about what are the techniques we can use to avoid thrashing.